The only true definition of God is this: God is the sum of all the building blocks of absolutely everything. It is an omnipresent, omnipotent, and almighty entity. It has a self-consuming, Ouroboros-like nature. It's a source God who divided itself into everything. And it did that out of boredom, not out of love. And even though there is a certain greatness to all of this, the fact remains that God is an evil entity. In fact, it's beyond evil. It's an entity with no regard for the life of an individual living being, especially not a low-ranked creature such as a human. A fact is that God is the biggest murderer in history. God is directly or indirectly responsible for the death of every creature that ever existed, and not only by definition of creation. In the case of humans, God is responsible for the death of entire civilizations that were annihilated after they woke up and realized the sinister and soul-devouring nature of reality. This entire world is but a single cell within the body of an immensely large creature. There is an entire macro world out there full of immensely large creatures, all of which can be considered God's children. These immensely large creatures are real soul-devouring monsters who are feeding on the souls of the life forms dying within the cells of their bodies. Many of the cells within their bodies have the shape of half-full spheres, just like the world we live in, and are packed with around 100 levels in their lower halves, and each level is a separate soul farm producing soul sustenance that continuously feeds this monstrosity. Not only are there many levels within each world, but there are countless cells within each immensely large creature too, meaning that there is a continuous mass murder going on of an unimaginable scale. On the level upon which we live, more than 150,000 people die each day. The main purpose of the remaining 8 billion humans is to farm and slaughter more than 1 billion animals every single day. And by doing that, we unknowingly and unwillingly contribute to a high level of productivity within this soul farm of a world. Creatures killing each other in the wild also contribute to the self-sustainability of this cold-blooded soul farm. Also, the tens of thousands of species of bacteria within the bodies of all creatures also produce vast quantities of soul sustenance. There are trillions of bacteria within the body of a single human being alone, and the lifespan of bacteria is no more than 24 hours on average. Almost half of the cells within the bodies of all animals, including humans, consist of bacteria, and the souls of trillions of dying bacteria within the body of each creature are also being continuously mass harvested on a daily basis. Furthermore, the millions of botanical life forms are also releasing spiritual energy throughout their lives. The 100 subterranean levels are no exceptions and are also producing vast amounts of soul sustenance. The immensely large creatures, the cells of which are entire worlds, are on top of the food chain and are the main beneficiaries of that. The souls of all animal and botanical species form an elixir, and it contributes to the long lifespan of the immensely large creatures. And the immensely large creatures themselves contribute to the entertainment of the source God. The source God itself is the sum of the building blocks from which everything is made, and therefore it experiences everything that each individual creature experiences. The deaths of all creatures are a part of a soul-devouring theater, a theater designed by the source God and for the source God. And even though the immensely large creatures are on top of the food chain, they are also mere creations, and are therefore not directly responsible for the death of all the life forms dying within the cells of their bodies. It's really the source God who is the real monstrosity here. All of this means that God, or the source God, is the cause of all death, and is therefore responsible for the deaths of all creatures that have ever existed. Also, there is simply no other explanation but the one in which God is literally the biggest murderer in history. And that is an undeniable fact regardless of how you look at it. The only survivor is and always will be God, while everything else dies. God is a true monster. God is the biggest murderer in history. God is directly or indirectly responsible for the deaths of every creature that has ever existed, and no greatness or mightiness, omnipotence or omnipresence can change anything about that. God is literally a monstrous, murderous, self-consuming entity of unimaginable evilness. There isn't a level of evilness known to us that can describe the evilness of God. There hasn't been any murderer in history who has murdered more living beings than God has. If you are looking for the biggest murderer in existence, look no further, because all you need to do is think of God.